list them before.
Well, she has 7 questions and it's about to start. That's all from us.
There we are. That's it from us.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Sunday, we unveiled Labour's plan to recruit hundreds of thousands of workers into clean energy, creating quality, well-paid jobs in every quarter of the United Kingdom. On Monday, we announced the new V-level qualification to make sure every young person has the skills to realise their potential. On Tuesday, our first ever regional investment summit in Birmingham secured £10 billion in investment, and today we're announcing tough new penalties to end the scandal of pollution in our rivers and seas. Mr. Speaker, that's national renewal with a Labour government. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I met Claire Throssell, who is here with us in the gallery today. Her 2 young sons, Paul and Jack, were murdered 11 years ago this week by her abusive ex-husband after a family court ordered he should have unsupervised contact with them. Claire's bravery and her campaign is humbling. And today, I'm pleased we can announce that we will repeal the presumption of parental involvement, putting children's safety first. Yeah. This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others, Mr. Speaker, in addition to my duties in this House. I shall have further such meetings later today.
Dr. Ross Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to associate myself with the Prime Minister's sympathies extended towards Claire and commend her on her bravery. Mr. Speaker, I regret to inform the House that yesterday there was a very, very serious breach of national security when my PMQ was photographed heading into number 10 through a transparent folder. However, the nation can rest easy. On this occasion, no state secrets were revealed. However, it does make me wonder whether this government can be trusted with a digital ID scheme that is mandatory in all but name. Can the Prime Minister... to keep the Prime Minister on his toes. Will the Prime Minister reverse this misguided scheme, or will he persist with a plan that makes all of our personal data vulnerable to hacks and attacks?
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Well, I thank you for our question. The whole point of digital ID, of course, is that you can't see it, so that should at least deal with the first of her concerns. Look, it is important that we make access to services, public services, as easy as possible for people, and we all know the difficulties that so many people have accessing services, and digital ID has been shown in other countries to help. I do think this is an important step forward. I also think that it's very important as part of our plan to tackle those who are entering our country illegally.
Jane Kirkham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Households in Cornwall in temporary accommodation have increased by 265% in 5 years. So I'm delighted that this Labour government is investing £39 billion into social and affordable housing. In Cornwall, we're developing a strategy to provide housing at sites like Pydar in my constituency, which need support from Homes England. Will the Prime Minister arrange for us to meet the Housing Minister at our Homes Cornwall launch next month to accelerate discussions on a strategic partnership for Cornwall so we can build the right homes in the right places for local people?
Well, I know the Housing Minister would be delighted to meet my honourable friend to help unlock new homes for her constituents. We are working closely with local authorities through our small sites aggregator to build new affordable homes on brownfield sites. My goal, Mr. Speaker, is to restore the dream of home and ownership, which was stolen by the government, by the opposition when they were in government. Thank you.
Leader of the opposition, Kemi Bed.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, can I pay tribute to the former Conservative MP Oliver Colville, who has very sadly passed away after a long illness. Colleagues will remember him for his love of cricket and, of course, hedgehogs. He will be very much missed. Mr. Speaker, 4 victims on the Rape Gang Survivors Panel have resigned. And they've resigned because they've lost all confidence in the government's inquiry. So I'm giving my first question to one of them, to Fiona. She said, being dismissed and contradicted by a minister when you're telling the truth takes you right back to that feeling of not being believed all over again. Fiona's question is simple. What's the point in speaking up if we're just going to be called liars?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank her for raising that on behalf of Fiona, and let me give Fiona and the House my answer, Mr. Speaker, because the grooming scandal was one of the worst scandals of our time. Women and girls were abused and exploited by predatory gangs of men, and survivors have been ignored for many years, including by the state that, of course, is supposed to protect them. My vow to Fiona and them is that this national inquiry will change that. I do acknowledge that in recent days some members, including Fiona, have decided to step away from the panel. I say this, Mr. Speaker, should they wish to return, the door will always be open. But even if they do not, we owe it to them and to Fiona and to the country to answer the concerns that they have raised. The inquiry is not and will never be watered down. Its scope will not change. It will examine the ethnicity and religion of the offenders, and we will find the right person to chair the inquiry. I can tell the House today, Mr. Speaker, that Dame Louise Casey will now support the work of the inquiry, and it will get to the truth. Injustice will have no place to hide.
Mr. Speaker, I doubt she'll be satisfied with that answer. He says that they could return to the panel if they wish to. Why would they do that? The government has been engaged in a briefing war against survivors. Elizabeth.
It's absolutely disgraceful.
Oh, really? They say shame. Why don't they listen to what Elizabeth had to say? Why don't they listen to what Elizabeth had to say? Elizabeth, who was abused in Rotherham from the age of 14, had this to say, and I quote, "The government has created a toxic environment for survivors." They were looking for answers from the Prime Minister, and what they've heard is Labour MPs saying shame at their words. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, the Safeguarding Minister said Elizabeth was wrong. Who should we believe? The Prime Minister's Safeguarding Minister or Elizabeth?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me put on record my respect for all of the survivors who've been through the most awful ordeals. And I want to thank those that have been involved so far for the work in the process. What we're trying to do is to get this right. And have an inquiry with survivors at the heart. As the Safeguarding Minister told the House yesterday, that's obviously not easy. They've all come with difficult experiences. There are a wide range of views, understandably, and every survivor does bring their own painful experience to this. The survivors met the prospective chairs this week, and we want to have them to have the chance to engage. I want survivors to be at the heart of this. I want an inquiry that can get to the truth. These are the hard yards, I accept that, but I want to press on and get this right.
Mr. Speaker, he says that he wants survivors to be at the heart of this, but in his first PMQs this year, he said we did not need a national inquiry. And when he did, all of these MPs cheered. They were nodding their heads, including the Safeguarding Minister. They voted against the national inquiry 3 times. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They voted against the national inquiry. All of you do. They voted against the national inquiry 3 times, so the victims don't believe them. They can say no as much as they like. It is on the record. They don't like it, but it's true. Now, one of the victims has quit. Contrary to what the Prime Minister's just said and what the Home Secretary wrote this morning, they believe that the inquiry will downplay the racial and religious motivations behind their abuse. Aren't the victims right when they call it a cover-up?
Prime Minister.
Well, let me reassure the victims and the House that the scope of the inquiry will not be diluted, and we won't shy away from cultural or religious issues. And Mr. Speaker, it was me that commissioned Baroness Casey in the first place, who gave me her recommendation in relation to a national inquiry, and we have, in the 4 months since then, finalised the panel and trying to get the leadership of this inquiry right, with survivors at the heart. Mr. Speaker, in that period, we have also reopened 1,200 historic closed cases. I have long argued, Mr. Speaker, that the criminal route where it can be pursued is the right route for perpetrators. We've introduced mandatory reporting of child sex abuse. I happen to think that is a vital safeguard. I've been campaigning for that for over a decade. I asked the last government to introduce it, and that fell on deaf ears. And that mandatory reporting of child sex abuse is something each and every one of them voted against earlier this year. And we've given victims and survivors the power to seek an independent review of their cases. But, Mr. Speaker, in relation to this inquiry, I want to go as fast as we can to get the justice that is deserved. I want to ensure survivors are involved in that, and we're balancing the two to get this right, and I'll continue to do so.
Mr. Speaker, he's talking about mandatory reporting. I will remind him what Fiona asked. What is the point if the victims aren't going to be believed? What would be the point of mandatory reporting? All of this is happening now. All he's saying is because 4 of those victims resigned from the survivors panel. If they hadn't done that, they would have continued with the watering down, which we all know that they were carrying out. So yes, the victims are right to be worried. He also talked about looking for a chair. It has been 10 months since we first called for a national inquiry. 10 months. It is shocking that they still do not have a chair. One of the final 2 candidates, Mr. Speaker, has pulled out, leaving a former police officer that the victims don't want. What they do want is a judge. They deserve a judge. So, Mr. Speaker, we are talking now. We are talking about the industrial scale rape of women and girls. Unlike most of the inquiries going on, why is it that this inquiry doesn't deserve a judge?
Prime Minister.
Can I answer that? It's a serious point, Mr. Speaker, because whether it should be judge-led was looked at by Louise Casey, and she decided against that for a reason, and her reasons were twofold. I'll spell them out. The first was the speed with which we could do this, and it would have been... They asked the question, and the first was the speed with which we could do this. The second is really important, and that is that at the same time as the inquiry, I was absolutely determined that criminal investigations would go on at the same time. One of the problems that judge-led inquiries run into, I've seen and experienced this myself, is that they're often held back until the end of the criminal investigations. And I was determined that we'd be able to run the two together. And it's because of that, Mr. Speaker, that we've been able to reopen 1,200 historic cases at the same time. And Mr. Speaker, she asks, what's the point of mandatory reporting that she voted against? I don't think she understands how it works. Mr. Speaker, is mandatory reporting of those that have had allegations made to them, and there's clear enough evidence they've then not passed that on. That is a fundamental problem in the system. That is why we've changed the law. They should hang their heads in shame for having voted against that vital protection.
What he should hang his head in shame in is calling this a far-right bandwagon when we first raised this issue. The deputy leader, the future deputy leader, we all know who's going to win, called this a dog whistle. What we need to think about right now, Mr. Speaker, is the victims. It is the survivors. I spoke to one of them yesterday. Let's remember, these are victims who waived their anonymity, an incredibly difficult thing to do. And they believe that the safeguarding minister has lied to them and about them. One of the survivors has said, and I quote, "Jess Phillips needs to be removed because I don't think her conduct during this has been acceptable for the position that she holds." That is, those aren't my words. Those are the words of the survivor. It is a shame that Labour MPs are drowning that out. The member for Birmingham Yardley has clearly lost the confidence of the victims. Does she still have the confidence of the Prime Minister?
Can I just say, Prime Minister, even if we are quoting somebody we shouldn't quote it because it's a direct allegation against a member of this House. So I'm sure that that's not what was intended, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I respect the views of all the survivors. There are different views, I accept that. But the safeguarding minister, I think, has probably more experience than any other person in this House in dealing with violence against women and girls. Alongside her will be Louise Casey. These two individuals, Mr. Speaker, have spent decades standing up for those who've been abused and sexually exploited. And I absolutely think they're the right people to take this forward.
Mr. Speaker, she doesn't have more experience than the survivors. The fact is, just a few weeks ago, he was standing there telling us he had full confidence in the best friend of a convicted paedophile. So it is no surprise that people have no confidence in what he is saying. The victims have said that she should be sacked. We on this side of the House believe that she should be sacked because this is about Labour failure. Labour never wanted this inquiry. We demanded it. It has been Labour-run councils, Trafford, Bradford, Blackpool, that tried to suppress the truth. It is Labour ministers attacking the victims. We're standing up for them. And how is it, Mr. Speaker, how is it that whether it is rape or Chinese espionage, when he's in a position to do something about it, it's always someone else's fault?
Mr. Speaker, my priorities are listening to and standing up for the survivors. That's why we're doing the work on the inquiry. That's why we've reopened the criminal cases, why we brought in mandatory reporting. But I would gently remind them they had 14 years in office. They barely mentioned this issue. And where there were inquiries, they failed to act on them. We have done more in the time we've been in office than they did in 14 long years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mental ill health affects 1 in 4 of us. It costs this country up to £300 billion a year. So will the Prime Minister join me in thanking the staff at McGill Health Park who do a brilliant job in looking after those suffering from mental ill health? And will he wish them well with their plans to set up a world-leading research and innovation centre which will make an enormous contribution towards this government's stated aim of giving mental and physical health care equal priority?
Prime Minister.
Well, of course I join in thanking the staff at McGill Health Park. Mr. Speaker, we are investing £15.6 billion to bring down mental health waiting lists, vital in continuing to drive down inactivity and helping people to get the care that they need. In the upcoming multi-year capital budgets, we will enable NHS Trust to accelerate decisions on local priorities, and that could include developments like the Mental Health Digital Research Centre that he champions.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I agree with the Prime Minister about the words he said about Claire Frossell? And agree with him that it's right that we change the law, and I hope it's named after her sons, Jack and Paul. Mr. Speaker, given the revelations about Royal Lodge, does the Prime Minister agree that this House needs to properly scrutinise the Crown Estate to ensure taxpayers' interests are protected? The Chancellor herself has said that the current arrangements are wrong. So will the Prime Minister support a select committee inquiry so all those involved can be called for evidence, including the current occupant?
Prime Minister.
Well, it's important in relation to all properties, Crown properties, that there is proper scrutiny. I certainly support that.
Sir Ed Davey.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I hope the House can look at this properly and all people can be summoned to the relevant committee. But turning to the economy now, Mr. Speaker, I know members opposite are relieved. They are finally allowed to say the Conservatives' Brexit deal is a disaster. But, Mr. Speaker, that can't just be a political ruse to attack the honourable member for Clacton, however much he deserves it. Or even worse, Mr. Speaker, or even worse, Mr. Speaker, given we still have the highest inflation in the G7, it mustn't be a smokescreen to raise taxes on ordinary people. Mr. Speaker, it must be a call to action. So will the Prime Minister act now to repair the Brexit damage by negotiating a new UK-EU customs union to boost Britain's trade and grow our economy?
No, I don't think that's the way forward. What we've done is to have a much closer relationship with the EU, recognising the damage done by the flawed Brexit deal that the party opposite negotiated. We've also struck deals with India and with the US, record investment into this country, and the fastest growing economy in the G7 in the first half of this year.
Daniel Francis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This summer, I visited every road across the Bexley and Crayford constituency to reporting potholes to ensure the £895,000 given by this Labour government to the Conservative Control Council in the London Borough of Bexley is spent. However, the Conservative Cabinet member responsible for roads on the council wrote to our local newspaper asking that I stop reporting potholes because it was causing work for the council. Will the Prime Minister join with me in urging my Conservative council to get on and spend that money to make roads like May Place Road East safe to drive on?
So this is a local Conservative council telling him not to point out potholes in case they have to fill them. That's outrageous. Just like the record of the last 14 years. Mr. Speaker, we know how problematic, dangerous and costly potholes are to drivers. That's why we've delivered record investment to maintain our roads and fix potholes. That's £1.6 billion, Mr. Speaker. That money's been given to councils, but it comes with strings. So my message to reinforce this is clear to the council. Use the money, fix the roads, show how you're carrying out repairs, or lose the money because it's councils who get on with the job of fixing our roads. And I'll make sure the Road Minister follows up with him.
Ellie Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that the TUC has calculated that the wealthiest 10% of households in the UK hold more wealth than everyone else in the country put together, does the Prime Minister agree with me that it is inequality, not immigration, that is a threat to our country?
Well,
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we need to deal both with the levels of immigration and with inequality, and that's what this government is doing. And as we get on with trying to boost our economy, can I gently point out that if we want more equality, if we want our economy to be stronger, their party needs to start voting for some of the measures that will make it necessary.
Michelle Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In March 2022, I gave birth to my son by emergency C-section. Both my son and my life put at risk by a failing maternity service. In Nottinghamshire, we know failing maternity services far too well, with harm caused to mothers, babies and fathers. Over 2,400 families involved in the Donna Ockington inquiry. So does the Prime Minister agree with me that grief must be the engine of change, and where previous governments has failed, it is imperative that this government transforms maternity services so that every birth is an informed birth and every birth is a safe birth?
Well, can I extend my gratitude to my honourable friend and for all of those who spoke for their powerful and moving stories in the baby loss debate, I think, on Monday, Mr. Speaker. And I can assure her, I was actually at the Pride of Britain Awards on Monday night, and very many people came forward to me having heard some of the speeches from this House, particularly the personal testimonies. And so those stories really did have power in making the argument. We do need to fix what needs fixing, so we'll fix the maternity services, improve safety and make sure every mother is heard and gets high quality care, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents have so many questions they'd like to ask the Prime Minister, but I'll settle one today. Can the Prime Minister define when grey belt is really grey?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me give a simple example. We had an example of green belt, which was in fact a car park where building didn't take place, and non-green belt, which was an open playing field where building did take place. That doesn't make sense to me, and that's why we've got the policy we have.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 12-year-old Millie Blair from Oundle who joins us today in the gallery along with her mum Gemma, her sister Jessica and her dad Gordon. On Millie's 11th birthday, she was diagnosed with a rare bone cancer, which led to her leg being amputated. Millie attends Prince William School but cannot access the lower playing field because the slope is too steep. Her parents, the school and I have asked the East Midlands Academy Trust to put in a ramp. They've refused, claiming they are not subject to certain parts of the Equalities Act. Would the Prime Minister agree with me that the Trust has an absolute moral obligation to make these adjustments so that Millie can have full access to all of her school so she can play and thrive with all of her friends?
Prime Minister.
Can I just welcome Millie to the gallery? She's looking down, as I appreciate the members opposite can't see her, but she's smiling down with the courage and positivity that I know is everything to her, and we absolutely salute that, and we're humbled by it. In relation to the decision, Mr. Speaker, I really do find it hard to understand how a school trust could make a decision like that in relation to the ramp. And rather than, as it were, berate them from here, I would just implore them on the behalf of, I think, everybody here, and Millie in particular, to just look again and please, I hope with the endorsement of the whole House, to reconsider that decision, put that ramp in and match the positivity and the courage that Millie has shown all of us. And I thank the honourable friend for raising this campaign.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Times has reported that local elections across the country will be delayed for a second year in a row. The leader of my local authority, Surrey County Council, has had to go on record to say that he hasn't called for elections to be cancelled, but other Conservatives clearly have. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister give me a cast iron guarantee that my constituents in Woking and others across the country will not lose their democratic right to vote?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank him for his question, and he knows we inherited a situation where local councils were underfunded and millions were wasted on duplication. By reforming the system, which is what we're doing, we will save money and reinvest it in improved public services. In Surrey, just in response to his question, we expect the elections to be in the new unitary councils, and we'll be setting out the planned timetable very shortly.
Alan Strickland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Central to growing our economy is delivering major events that drive footfall and investment. So does the Prime Minister share my disappointment that since Reform took over the running of Durham County Council, they've slashed funding for Durham Pride, which brings in 20,000 people a year? So they can't cope with accountability, Mr. Speaker. They have cancelled the Lumiere Festival, which has brought nearly 1.5 million people into County Durham since it started, undermining businesses, undermining communities. Would the Prime Minister agree that if Reform can't run one county council, they certainly can't run Scotland, Wales or our United Kingdom?
Absolutely right to point out, as voters in Durham can see, what you get if you vote Reform is total chaos and broken promises. Mr. Speaker, councils have a vital role in our communities, and it's not just Durham where Reform are doing real. I think 4 councillors in Kent have just been suspended for bringing the party into disrepute. I mean, that is, bring the party into disrepute is quite something for a party whose Welsh leader accepts Russian bribes to spread Putin's propaganda.
Sir Ashley Fox.
Mr. Speaker, Western Hospice Care provides an invaluable service for my constituents with a terminal illness. The hospice now faces an increased bill for national insurance charges of £139,000 a year as a result of the Chancellor's jobs tax. Now, the Prime Minister will know that the money he's announced for capital expenditure can't be used for day-to-day running expenses. He will know that the money he's announced for children's hospices won't benefit Western Hospice Care. So what help can he offer Western Hospice Care as they struggle under the tax burden imposed by his government?
Prime Minister.
Speaker, we're putting in the support that we can for hospices, and of course the money that we've put aside at the budget for the NHS is absolutely crucial in relation to that. The NHS was underfunded for 14 long years. We've now put the funding in to allow the NHS to do the work that it needs.
Mr. Speaker, December will mark the 10th anniversary of the Storm Desmond floods that devastated my Carlisle constituency and forced thousands of people from their homes. Despite promising us new flood defences, previous Conservative governments left them unfinished. With climate-related rainfalls forecast to increase in the North West over the next decade, does the Prime Minister agree with me that the climate change sceptic policies peddled by some of the parties opposite are both reckless and dangerous, and will he assure the people of Carlisle that this Labour government will defend our great border city?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, she's absolutely right that the Tories left our flood defences in their worst state on record, and we, of course, are building them up again, investing over £10 million to protect homes and businesses, and we've delivered over 150 flood schemes in our first year, and I want to see this progress even more rapidly. My honourable friend is a superb champion on this issue. We provided £300,000 to complete a feasibility study for stronger defences in her constituency.
Chairman Hall.
As last week's urgent question highlighted, Jahoots, the pharmacy non-provider, is effectively de facto bankrupt and possibly even insolvent too. Last week we discussed at great length the impact that is having on patients securing their prescriptions. It is now becoming increasingly evident that staff, whilst being told by HMRC is being told by Jahoots they're being paid, are not. Lana Gulston and Blake Harwood in my constituency haven't been paid since the 18th of July. They are resorting to the kindness of friends and the support of food banks to make ends meet. The Minister, the member for Aberfan and my steg, is doing fantastic work to try to drive forward modernisation of the regulations. But this is now impacting the work of the Department of Business and Trade, HMRC and DWP. Could I urge the Prime Minister to convene those three departments alongside the DOHSC to secure a better deal and a fair deal for patients, but also for those who are currently employed and trapped in employment, not released by being made redundant, but are not being paid?
Well, can I thank him for raising this really serious issue, as he's done on a number of occasions, because it affects constituents of his, but also across the country. And it's simply unacceptable that customers and staff have been so badly let down. I know he will be meeting the relevant minister, but just let me update him here and now in a couple of respects, because officials are currently reviewing whether the Integrated Care Boards and the General Pharmaceutical Council need additional powers to address pharmacy businesses that do not play by the rules. And I think that's exactly the point he raises. That could include powers for the councils to go after business owners in addition to the pharmacy professionals. There'll be more detail when he has his meeting, but I thought it helpful to give those two indications.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well over 1,000 youth clubs have closed in this country since 2010, with a huge negative impact on our young people. This is despite the fact that youth clubs have had a long positive history in this country for helping young people to mature in a healthy fashion. In particular, FAB clubs help disabled and non-disabled people to build friendships in an inclusive environment. The FAB charity are here in Parliament later today to gain support for their work. So can I ask the Prime Minister to commend the work that they do, and can I also ask him to consider how best to support the youth club movement to help the next generation of young people grow into well-adjusted adults?
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for his question? He's a credit to his community. I know firsthand he's done so much hard work to help heal, to rebuild and to look to a brighter future for Southport. Can I welcome FAB Charity to Parliament? They do fantastic work, Mr. Speaker, to help break down barriers. And I'm proud that Labour is backing our youth clubs with £30 million of grant funding, doubling the numbers of youth hubs and providing a youth guarantee with earning or learning guaranteed for our young people. Our national youth strategy will be set out in the autumn.
Rebecca Smith.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, I invited the Prime Minister to match the Conservative pledge to scrap business rates for our high streets. However, he declined. Instead, he pointed me towards the small business strategy. Since then, businesses have been in touch to tell me that this strategy will make little or no difference to their future. With 14,000 high street businesses expected to close this year alone, and with retail businesses in my constituency facing a doubling of their business rates, when will this Labour government deliver on its commitment to reduce business rates, given that they are unprepared to accept our policy of scrapping them altogether?
Mr. Speaker, our small business plan was drawn up with small businesses. I sent her a copy online. I hope she shared that with 3,000 small businesses in her constituency. They show what we're doing. Well, we're reflecting what they asked us to do before they shout rubbish. This is what they asked us to do. £1 billion of additional lending to small businesses, £3 billion extra for small businesses to scale up, dealing with late payments with the biggest reform for 25 years.
Alex Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Britain faced peril in World War II, Winston Churchill took a radical step. He changed the clocks to shift extra daylight into the evenings. As the clocks go back this weekend, would the Prime Minister take a look at the evidence on trialling Churchill time again to cut carbon, reduce bills, improve road safety, boost the hospitality industry, and be the Prime Minister who will brighten up all of our lives?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank her for her question, and we'll look at the relevant material.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many in Glastonbury and Somerton are forced to travel hundreds of miles to see an NHS dentist, or suffer in agony, or fall into debt to pay for private treatment, or turn to DIY dentistry, like Jennifer, who extracted 2 of her teeth over the weekend. They simply can't wait for the consultation on the broken NHS contract. Mr. Speaker, they deserve immediate action. So will the Prime Minister outline what measures he's taking to end the dental desert in Somerset for good?
Can I thank her for raising this, because added to the list of shocking things the last government left was the shocking state of NHS dentistry, broken like everything else under the last government. In relation to her question, we are rolling out extra urgent care appointments. In Somerset, Integrated Care Board is expected to deliver over 13,000 extra dental appointments this year, and I'll give her more details in due course. We're also reforming the dental contract, which will shift focus onto retaining NHS dentists.
Final question now, please, Tuttle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ahmed Al-Ibrahim was only 16 years old when he was fatally stabbed in Huddersfield. His life was cruelly taken away in what the police described as an unprovoked and motiveless attack. On a visit to Netherhall Learning Campus in my constituency last week, I know how important this issue is for young people. So will the Prime Minister commit to redoubling efforts to tackle serious violence and knife crime through more visible policing, stronger prevention and investment in youth services?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank her for raising this devastating case, and my thoughts, I'm sure those of the whole House, are with the family and friends. Through our crime and policing bill, we're increasing penalties for the illegal sale of knives and giving police new powers to seize knives likely to be used for violence or cause harm. We've also launched a coalition to tackle knife crime, to bring together campaigners and community leaders to tackle the root causes of knife crime and help protect the next generation.
From benches, change over.
And Kemi Badenoch choosing to use all of her 6 questions on the Grooming gang inquiry. And here in the studio, we are joined by 2 MPs, one Tory, one Labour, both newcomers. It's the Labour MP for South Derbyshire, Samantha Niblett, and the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Richard Fuller. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Well, Samantha, let's start with you. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
Andy has written in to say he would ask Keir Starmer, much like Kemi Badenoch did, if he has 100% faith in Jess Phillips and the rest of his cabinet. Basically, Andy's saying that Keir Starmer keeps coming back with excuses whenever he has to sack someone. Why does he always have faith in these people until he doesn't?
Because he has selected them to do the jobs that they were hired to do. And I think when it comes to the work that Jess has done, she has she has committed her life to supporting women that have been victims of this kind of horrific act. And my heart absolutely goes down to those victims and survivors. And I am not surprised, having watched PMQs with you, I am not surprised they don't trust the system. They have been let down time and time again by successive governments. And so just to hear our Home Secretary, for instance, say we will keep it focused on grooming gangs, this inquiry, we will get to the bottom of it, they're not going to believe her. They're not going to believe her until they see the results for themselves.
I mean, it is a pretty damning indictment of the process that four victims have already, in the space of just 24, 48 hours, walked away from the process. I mean, what is the government actually doing to ensure that these people do feel heard?
Well, first and foremost, we want to make sure that they do feel heard. And as the Prime Minister said, that door will always be open for them to come back if they want to. Having had their experience, having not had their experience, I cannot begin to imagine how harrowing this is for them, being part of this process. It's taking time to get the right chair, because we have got to get the right chair. Under the last previous inquiry, under the last government, there were 4 chairs in a decade. That cannot happen. We have got to get to the bottom of this. And so I'm not surprised they have not got faith in the process. So what we need to make sure is that we get the outcomes that we need.
OK, well, let's look at the record of the last government. Richard Fuller for the Conservatives. Jocelyn has been in touch and wonders why the J report recommendations weren't acted upon. This was a 7-year inquiry into child sexual exploitation under your watch, and not a single one of the recommendations has been fully implemented.
Look, I think Jocelyn's making a fair point, and there were things that were done by the last government. I mean, we did set up the task force, did do some arrests, did look after victims. But this is an issue which the political class for a decade or more has tried to look away from. And that's why I think it was right that Kemi today asked all her questions about it. And right at the core of this is not just the scepticism about a minister, and I slightly disagree with Samantha. I do think Jess Phillips is in a bit of trouble now. But it is...
Do you think she should resign?
I think the people on the panel are saying that she needs to go. I mean, how many does it take to resign from the panel before she gets the message? So I think that is why there's I think she has got a problem. But I think that the core thing that people is the point that both Kemi and the Prime Minister, Kemi Badenoch and the Prime Minister talked about, which was getting to the cultural or religious or the racial and religious aspects of it. That's what politicians have shied away from. And I think...
Not this Home Secretary, though. She's been very clear about that.
Well, we're going to see. If we do, that's not what people say. That people, Samantha said, people ask everyone, not until we see it done. And I'm afraid that Labour Party in particular has a problem, because so many Labour councils were the ones who had the primary responsibility, and they're the ones that many people feel turned a blind eye.
Samantha, is there a problem, just looking at Jess Phillips, the Safeguarding Minister, her constituency is a very, very diverse part of the world. She almost lost her seat to an independent candidate talking about Gaza more than any domestic issue. Given the particular sensitivities of the grooming problem in this country, the fact that it is predominantly carried out by Pakistani males in this country, is there a bit of distrust there because of the demographics in her seat? It's a difficult thing to talk about.
It's a hugely difficult thing to talk about, but we have a woman who is leading the Home, who is our Home Secretary, who has very clearly stated that we will be reporting on ethnicity of these groups, and has acknowledged that they over-index on the number of perpetrators have been Pakistani men that have done this. I think one of the things that I'm finding a little bit tough to take watching Kemi attack the Prime Minister is it feels like she's making this a political hot potato, and that feels really tasteless, because under the last government she didn't spend any time talking to any of the victims and survivors of grooming gangs, and suddenly now she is. And also, when we're talking about actually taking action, as Richard said, and as I said prior to that, people will only feel it when they get outcomes. We have opened up 1,200 cases. 1,200 people had lost all hope that have now got hope again. 7 men have had, in the last month, have gone to prison, had sentences of 174 years. So we are taking action whilst we wait to get the right chair. And for continuity, Baroness Casey is going to be part of this ongoing inquiry.
One of the reasons these victims might be, these survivors might be feeling like they don't have trust in the process, is that this has been a conversation in this country for the best part of a year. And this process has been dragging on and on and on. And yes, of course, finding the right chair is a very important thing. But why on earth is it taking month after month after month with nothing moving here? It looks like the government hasn't made it a priority.
But we have, like as I mentioned, we've opened 1,200 cases. In the last month, 7 men have got sentences of 174 years collectively, and that's happening concurrently with this inquiry.
And Richard Fuller from the Tories, in your last answer, you said successive governments have sort of shied away from this and not done enough. I just wanted to ask you a simple question and ask why you thought that was.
I can't speak for government. I wasn't really in government, but I'll just say I used to represent the town of Bedford, hugely diverse, but lots of different diversity. And my observation would be that there are particular cultural norms around the Pakistani and Kashmiri community, which have a greater than other communities' resistance to integration. And I don't know what the reason for that is, but we have people from the Indian subcontinent, we have Bangladeshis, people from the Caribbean, people from Italy, and lots of people prepared to integrate. But there was something there. And I think for many, many years, it was very difficult to point that out and say, why is that? Why are you not accepting norms? What is about your treatment of women that for us makes us feel uncomfortable? And, we may talk about certain aspects of that, but I just think it was lack of courage.
Samantha, what do you make of that? Do you think that there have been some minority communities in this country that have been less willing to integrate than others?
What does that integrate thing mean? Because I have had people from ethnically diverse parts of my constituency, particularly in the north of the constituency, welcome me into their temples, welcome me into
Speaking
a place
English.
of worship. Speaking English.
Well, no, but I'm asking that perhaps that is in answer to what does integration mean about.
But we have also got a Home Secretary who has said you will need to have an A-level level English.
But there are other things, like not shaking hands. So Pakistani men who will not shake hands with an English woman or a Caucasian woman. Why is that? Or outside the community. That's a cultural norm which is very different from our own. We wouldn't challenge that. Or we're wearing a burqa.
Let me bring this conversation, which we've expanded into Robert Jenrick, your colleague's comments this week that he would like to see a burqa ban. Now, Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, said that is not party policy.
It's not.
And you don't think it should be?
No. I have many friends. They have Muslim friends. Their daughters. They're worried about their daughters and some of the tension now because being quote unquote visibly Muslim is mainly a female issue, and people wearing the hijab. That's a very common form that people have a head covering in many, many religions, including Christianity. That is different from the questions about the burqa, where the burqa is a complete covering of females' identity, and that looks very different from what we expect to be in the country. It brings up other issues about women's rights.
Just to clarify, Richard, you said... So would you support a burqa? Because a burqa as in a full face covering, not seeing any of the face. Would you support a ban on that?
No, I think it goes... it's one... I'm not going... I think it's a much broader issue here. So one issue is we talk about the religion of Islam and people's head coverings. And there we have one problem, which is that now a lot of young... not young, but Muslim ladies walking... British Muslims are worried... Will they be attacked? What will people say? There's a completely separate issue here of cultural inclusion. The burqa is part of that issue. It deserves a special attention on that as a broader part of integration.
Well, isn't it interesting then that your leader, Kemi Badenoch, if that is not party policy, but your Robert Jenrick is allowed to sort of speak out and say, this is what I think, shouldn't you be reprimanded? Because this is... you can just say whatever you want in the Shadow Cabinet.
So, I think you follow party policy, but at the moment, if there's a difference between being government and opposition, in opposition, we believe in free speech. We should have ideas and talk about issues. And we know that this is an issue about cultural integration. And to raise up issues, to have a discussion as we're having, Samantha and I now, about those issues with you, I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing for somebody to be doing, and that's something I'd welcome, actually.
Samantha, I'm interested in your view on the burqa, just quickly. Obviously, there are lots of countries in Europe that have liberal or left-wing governments, Denmark, France, that have decided to ban the burqa. What does the Labour Party think about it?
I think we should probably stop telling women what to wear. I've got trousers on today, and at one point in time, women weren't seen... It's
a bit different than trousers, though, isn't it?
Well, it's just, if a woman wants to wear a burqa, let her wear a burqa.
Are you certain that every case of a woman wearing a burqa, that's her free choice, or is that her husband telling her what to wear?
Well, this government is there to protect all women against violence perpetrated on them, and that would include women from all different ethnicity and backgrounds.
We are going to continue this discussion, but of course we want to get the expert and brilliant analysis from our great political editor, Chris Hope, who's been watching Prime Minister's Question Times from right inside that chamber. Chris.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that was a fascinating session there. We had 6 questions on the grooming gangs inquiry, and from that we learnt from the PM he is not going to remove Jess Phillips as Safeguarding Minister, but he will support her work with Louise Casey, Baroness Casey. Now, she is turned into this go-to fix-it person for the Prime Minister. She, of course, reviewed the scale of the grooming gangs scandal after GBNews revealed it. The PM ordered a review earlier this year. That led to where we are now, trying to establish a national inquiry. It seems that Jess Phillips has lost the confidence of some of these victims who have quit the group advising that inquiry. But the PM said that these 2 individuals, Louise Casey and Jess Phillips, they are the right people to take this forward. So we'll see how that goes. But she's very busy, Louise Casey. She's also reviewing social care for the government, a major issue on how to make that land properly, and also being tipped as a possible future cabinet secretary. So it seems that when things go wrong or go difficult for the PM, he reaches for the glass and breaks it to release Louise Casey to help him out there. He also said that it won't be a judge-led inquiry. He wants criminal cases to go alongside anything that's found out from the inquiry. So if you had a judge involved, that would delay any criminal action. Also, on Prince Andrew, fascinating to hear the PM not say that he wouldn't support a select committee inquiry into whether Prince Andrew stays at Royal Lodge. We know the National Audit Office reviewed that back in 2005, but now he's saying that he wouldn't he wouldn't say he's against it. He said he welcomes scrutiny of the arrangement of Prince Andrew living there. That's a big moment. And just very finally, again, Nigel Farage raised. He was sitting alongside us in the press gallery alongside his old friend Aaron Banks. He's put out a tweet saying in terms he's just simply no point attending the PMQs when he can't get a word in, so he's sitting that one out. I've asked him, will he be boycotting future PMQs? I'll bring you the answer later.
Gosh, interesting there. Christopher Hope, thanks indeed for joining us there live in Westminster.
We have got a couple of minutes left. Let's try and change the subject to Brett, who has written in. We all know the last government messed up, and then Tom might raise this with Samantha, the second part of the question. But just on that, so Brett is a bit fed up that Keir Starmer keeps blaming you lot. But just on the sort of central premise of Brett's question, we all know the last government messed up. Do you recognise that? Have you apologised enough? Have you started to make peace with an electorate that rejected you so comprehensively?
Very good question. We have to earn back that trust, it's clear, and I think that part of that is the apologising, and I was party chairman last year and I led my speech at the party conference apologising for the behaviour of the 2019 to 24 Conservative Parliamentary Party. They let down Conservative voters, Conservative-minded people around the country. But if you look at the whole period of 2010 to 24, I think that's an unfair judgment that Brett is making because, first of all, voters were given chances. 2015, 17 and 19, they kept voting the Conservatives back, and there were a number of accomplishments that we had over that period. So, yes, we've got to earn back the trust, and that's what Kemi and the Shadow Cabinet are working on.
By that logic, is it just the 2019 Parliament that you think was was what went wrong?
No, I think that's where the wheels fell off, and I think there was a systemic problem amongst my parliamentary colleagues.
Isn't that strange, Richard? Because obviously 2010 to 15 coalition, 2015 to 16 very, very small majority, 2017 hung Parliament, no majority for the Conservatives. In fact, the only period in those 14 years when you did have a sizable majority is the period you're saying that the wheels fell off.
Nice try, Tom, but no. The issue is that in that period you had a COVID once in 100 years, all the action, and then you had a war in Europe, and then you had inflation. So it was the turmoil of the period that makes the difference.
Let me let Samantha come in to Brett's central point, which is like, blooming heck, you've been in for 14 months, stop blaming the last lot, it's boring, they all know that, they chose you. They're not very happy with you at the moment, but stop making excuses.
Yeah, I don't like reminding people that they have 14 years of a Conservative government. Sometimes we just have to remind people because they forget quickly. So it is important to say, look, this is our starting point and these are the things that we're doing. They just won't feel lots of those things for a while yet. So it's important to keep reminding people a little bit.
I've loved having you both.
Thank you for having me.
First-timers, certainly not last-timers, I hope. Thank you, as ever, for sending in your brilliant, brilliant questions. I will be back with the lovely Tom next week, but he's not going anywhere now because he's presenting Good Afternoon Britain with Nana.
Yeah, you're stuck with me for the next 2 hours. See you in a bit.
warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a bright day ahead, occasional showers at times, turning very wet and windy later though, with some Met Office weather warnings in force for Thursday. And it's all due to this area of low pressure slowly skirting its way towards the Atlantic. This has actually been named by the French Met Services as Storm Benjamin. But for the time this afternoon, it should be mostly bright. It's almost the calm before the storm. Many areas seeing a dry day with sunny spells. There will be some showers, mostly across Scotland, Northern Ireland, quite breezy here too, and eventually we'll start to see outbreaks of rain push into the far western part of Cornwall. Otherwise, fairly pleasant in the sunshine, highs reaching around 16 degrees Celsius. Then it's later into the evening where we'll begin to see that change, some very wet and windy weather on its way. At first pushing into parts of Devon and Cornwall and slowly pushing its way eastwards into central areas and parts of southeastern England. And it's here where we'll really start to see winds pick up through the course of the evening. A little calmer elsewhere, still occasional showers across parts of Northern Ireland, western areas of Scotland. But towards the east of Scotland, northeastern parts of England, winds should remain mostly light, some clear skies, so turning chilly here, possibly even some mist and fog and also some frost by dawn. But elsewhere it's a very unsettled picture, some very heavy and persistent outbreaks of rain, at first pushing into parts of southeast England before a second band of heavy rain pushes into parts of Devon and Cornwall. Some very strong winds initially around coasts of Wales, southwest England, and then later through the day we'll start to see those strong winds across parts of the southeast, particularly around any coastal areas. So for the morning commute on Thursday, it is set to be unsettled. We'll see strengthening winds not just around coasts but also through inland areas as well, and into the afternoon we could potentially see wind gust speeds of around 60 miles per hour. A little more settled elsewhere, still some showers across the northwest, and it is going to be feeling much chillier for all, highs reaching around 12 degrees Celsius.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry to become a winner. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Some schools are banning birthday cakes from the classroom.
Yeah, banning parents from sports. And now the great headline in the Telegraph, Labour puts the knife into nursery birthday cake. Apparently, new guidelines for the Department of Education are saying that you should not send your child into school with a cake when it's their birthday because it's bad for them, it's going to make them fat, all the rest of this stuff. It's the nanny state once again on the march, isn't it?
Is this a new thing? Because I don't remember ever taking